Once again, Israel's Prime Minister addressed the United Nations General Assembly today. Benjamin Netanyahu made no mention of the current ceasefire proposal being championed by the United States and France and supported by the European Union and by Canada. Instead, he issued a warning for those countries about the kind of enemies, Hamas and Hezbollah, that the Israeli leader says his country is determined to defeat. Here's part of his speech in which he addressed the recent fighting along the Israel-Lebanon border. It has forced thousands of people on both sides to flee their homes.
As long as Hezbollah chooses the path of war, Israel has no choice, and Israel has every right to remove this threat and return our citizens to their homes safely. And that's exactly what we're doing. Just this week, the IDF destroyed large percentages of Hezbollah's rockets, which it built with Iran's funding for 3 decades. We took out senior military commanders who not only shed Israeli blood, but American and French blood as well. And then we took out their replacements, and then the replacements of their replacements. And we'll continue degrading Hezbollah until all our objectives are met.
CBC's Chris Reyes was listening in on Benjamin Netanyahu's address. She joins us once again from New York. Chris, what stood out for you?
Good afternoon, Natasha. Well, let's start by bringing you into that General Assembly Hall, which is that building right behind me, by telling you who was in the room. So no surprise, it was a full Israeli delegation. They gave Prime Minister Netanyahu a standing ovation. Iran seats were empty. And then in the balcony were the families of those killed or taken hostage during the October 7th attacks last year. There was also quite a loud applause from that section when Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised to bring all the hostages home and called that mission a holy mission, and that Israel would spare no effort in trying to bring them home. The tone of the speech was defiant, it was forceful, it was fierce, and it was also long, twice as long as the allotted time given to leaders of 15 minutes. Impossible, Natasha, to go through all the points that were in that sweeping speech. I mean, he talked directly to Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, accused him of being the obstacle to peace, defended Israel's recent actions in Lebanon fighting Hezbollah. But he did lay out a few clear things, and the three things that he really answered, Natasha, is first who he was speaking for. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he was here to speak for Israel, his country, and to defend against some of the lies that he has heard from leaders during this week. He also talked about what Israel is fighting for, its very existence, and then who Israel is fighting against, what he called the arc of terror led by Iran. And really, Natasha, he saved his sharpest words for Iran. I mean, we are talking red alert, 5-alarm warnings when it comes to his allegations of Iran's aspirations, not just to annihilate Israel, but to bring down Western civilization. And he had a message directly for Iran on that front.
There is no place in Iran that the long arm of Israel cannot reach. And that's true of the entire Middle East. Far from being lambs led to the slaughter, Israel's soldiers have fought back with incredible courage and with heroic sacrifice. And I have another message for this assembly and for the world outside this hall. We are winning.
And Natasha, he also had a message for the world. That's what he said. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called on the world to join Israel in the fight to keep Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. And he also called on the global community to make a choice. He kept coming back to this theme of blessing and a curse. He described the blessing to be peace in the Middle East, one in which Israel had peace with its Arab neighbors. And he said that Israel was on the way to that last year before the curse of the October 7th attacks. And he said that curse is being led by Iran's arc of terror, and he held up two maps. In that curse map, it was one filled with black that sort of described the Middle East as a region that would wreak havoc on the rest of the world.
Chris, we know, and as you highlighted, he definitely took his swipes at Hamas, Hezbollah, Islamist militaries, Iran itself, but Netanyahu also had very fierce condemnation for the UN itself. Tell us about that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he was angriest when he was talking about the United Nations. He called the singling out of Israel at this institution a moral stain. He also said that there are more resolutions against Israel than any other country. He called the United Nations an anti-Semitic swamp. He said that there was moral confusion at the United Nations about who was wreaking havoc in the Middle East. He said that at the United Nations, what was good was bad and what's bad is good. And then he said directly to the Palestinians, he called the United Nations a ready-made majority for anything anti-Israel. And, he kept going on and on. Of course, this is something that we've heard from Israel's UN ambassadors since October 7th. I mean, how that will play out with the global community is hard to tell, because there has been an overwhelming majority of support for the Palestinian cause at the General Assembly since October 7th. And just a few weeks ago, a resolution was passed at the General Assembly calling on Israel to leave their settlements in East Jerusalem, in Gaza and the West Bank in 12 months. And yesterday, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas called on the United Nations to hold a peace summit to get the two-state solutions back up and running again. I mean, how you bring Israel to that table after what Netanyahu said today is hard to tell. I mean, we'll find out in the days and weeks ahead, because the United Nations will continue its business past this high-level week.
BC's Chris Reyes in New York, thank you.